Probably be more helpful if we did it.
Hello. And clap. Okay.
EMMETT SPARLING is a photographer and director based out of Vancouver, Canada. His photography work covers a wide range of subjects, from landscapes, wildlife, underwater, portraits, and the travel adventure content he shares every day on Instagram. EMMETT has been traveling full-time around the globe since 2016, capturing the beauty of our planet and telling the stories within the landscapes he explores. With an audience of over 1 million people on social media, EMMETT uses his influence for positive impact storytelling as well as teaching photography. This is Creator Convo with EMMETT SPARLING.
Thank you. That's a pretty good intro.
Thanks. Oh, I was practicing in the mirror.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll start. Where are you from? You're a Canadian, yeah?
So I'm from Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah.
I grew up on a little island about 20 minutes outside of Vancouver. So my whole childhood was spent running around in the forest and just creating these magical worlds with my brother. And I think that kind of gave me that love for nature pretty early on, and that kind of led me to what I'm doing now, because I eventually swapped a wooden sword for a camera and then started taking photos around the forest.
New weapon of choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And then, yeah, so from Vancouver, and basically had that as my home base for the last 25 years. And then I spent 1 year in Bali, but probably would have spent more time there if COVID didn't happen. But yeah,
it was right before COVID, huh?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of glad I went back to Vancouver during that whole thing, and then got more established in Vancouver versus staying in Bali and just kind of getting stuck there.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have been bad, but I think I've probably progressed more having been in Vancouver for the last couple of years.
Yeah. How is Bali is awesome because I feel like the creative community is really, because we've bumped into each other there a couple of times.
Yeah.
How do you find like it there versus like Vancouver versus LA?
I mean, Vancouver is not very good in terms of a creator community. Like, it's pretty sporadic. Like, I think a lot of people are in the film industry. They're not necessarily in the creator, like, content world. So there is a community there, but it's very niche. It's like more Pacific Northwest photographer guys, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think the reason it was so good for me going back there was because I actually had no friends in Vancouver really that were in this world. And so during COVID, I suddenly had all this time in Vancouver to actually go and make friends in Vancouver, and then ended up connecting with some really cool people, and now they're some of my best friends. And so that was super helpful for just like having a place you can go back to and just know that your best friends are there, and just have this really tight-knit group of people that you can work with all the time. And I think that was like one of the biggest benefits of just living in Vancouver for a longer period of time rather than running around all over the place. Like Bali, I was living there for a year and kind of started to build that same kind of core group of friends, but it's such a transient community. Like, everyone's just passing through, so it's not like you can you have that core group for like a month and then they're all spread out again. Whereas I feel like in Vancouver, they're all a little more homebodied.
Yeah.
But then you can still convince I can still convince all my friends to come with me.
Yeah.
Wherever I want them to. Yeah.
What percentage of like your schedule now are you saying is traveling? Because obviously I'd say a travel content creator. Is it?
Yeah. That's a good question. I try to spend all the summer in Vancouver, because it's so nice there. And then I try to spend at least a month in the winter skiing. But other than that, I'm pretty much, I actually wrote down in my notes on my phone everywhere I've gone this year. Could be funny to read all that.
Yeah.
Should I?
Should, yeah. Why not?
So this is just this
With
year.
a little graphic and put pins on the map.
Yeah. So
this is starting January
2023, Vancouver Island, did a dive trip, then drove home. Then I flew to Saudi Arabia, and then I was there for a week, and then I flew to Muscat in Oman, then Kuwait, then Amsterdam, then I flew to Brazil, to Rio for a DJI shoot, and then I flew to Panama Panama City, and then went to these little islands called Toboga, then Costa Rica, then back to Vancouver, then Mexico, then LA, Vancouver, France, went to Paris and a couple towns in the countryside, then flew to Italy, went to Sicily, Milan, and then from there flew to Singapore, Indonesia, Bali, Java, Australia, Vancouver, Iceland, and then did a road trip around Iceland.
Right 2 hours later.
This is July.
Oh my God.
And then London, Kenya, Frankfurt, Vancouver, Salt Lake City, Denver, Vancouver, Great Bear Rainforest, Whistler, Vancouver, Japan, LA, French Polynesia, LA, and that's where we are now.
Wow. Mentally, where are you?
And then and then I fly home for 2 weeks, and then I fly to Dubai, Nepal, Japan, then back to Vancouver for Christmas.
It's great. I mean,
A little chaotic, but
you get to see
good.
the world.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the thing is, like, I wanted to ask you, because now it's been so glorified, like traveling and like wanting to be a travel content creator.
Yeah.
How do you find, because obviously for me, it's like, I love the filming part of traveling, but then I very much need the recharging part of being home, or even just like the ability to then catch up on editing. So how do you, and now that, you know, once you get to a certain level where it's like your business is luckily thriving and you're getting a lot of inbounding work, how do you find like the pros and cons of like almost being like a full-time traveler?
I think the hardest part is the editing, like especially for video. Just trying to keep up with that while traveling is almost impossible. So having an editor is the biggest key for kind of fixing that bottleneck, because there's so much stuff that we're filming and then just no one's there to edit it, and then it just piles up.
Yeah.
So that's been the biggest challenge, is trying to find someone that's actually good enough to edit, because it's the hardest thing to find. And so we've like tried various people and just have not been good. But I think the other thing that has really helped me be able to just keep going and just stay sharp and get it all done is prioritizing 8 hours of sleep. It's like all the simplest things, like 8 hours of sleep, work out every day, drink a ton of water, and don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
And like a drink here and there is fine, but don't get drunk every night traveling, because it's fun and it's tempting, but you're not going to be able to like be sustainable with all that. So just keeping pretty disciplined with all that makes such a big difference for, even if you're not traveling, just for your productivity is so much better. I think, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, for photos, I've got a really quick workflow, so I can pretty much shoot, like I just did a shoot in Lake Arrowhead, and we shot, like, I was shooting 5,000 photos a day, probably 1,500, or I shot 22,000 photos total in 3 days. So just over, like, probably 7,000 photos a day, 7,500. And I had all selects done and rough edits done each day, just because I've got it so quick now. I can just blast through a huge amount of photos really quickly, and then that also just helps keep things moving so much better than when you just get hung up on a photo. I've completely let go of that and just get it done. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, not a perfectionist in terms of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, that's only because I've practiced so much. I get most of the shot done in camera, and then I don't actually have to edit very much. Yeah. And that just speeds things up. And then also doing little things like making selects in camera, just like quickly rate the photo right after you take it, and then it just speeds everything up in post. But that basically just helps keep everything moving so that you don't just burn out and need to. Yeah, you feel like you're tied down, and all of a sudden you need to get your head above water. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I want to touch on a couple of things you said. First off, it's like, I feel like
older you get, the more you realize just like taking care of your body is just like so important.
When I was like 19 traveling, I was just raw dogging life, as they say.
Yeah, mentally you're like, I got this, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh well, there's time change, and then there's jet lag, and then like just general fatigue, and it's just like now I'm just so conscious of just making sure my body feels good. The other thing is like, I feel like it used to be more taboo. I don't know if, or even if it was just like an ego thing, or it's just like everyone who was shooting is like, I'm editing everything myself as well, and I feel like that's just not feasible. Like you were saying, it's like maybe for quick photos, but like having someone that could help you like either make like selects of like video, or put together like a string out, or even like, if you're working on branded stuff, that could help you make an edit so you can be a production company or be like mass produce stuff is a major key. I was going to ask you too, because you're very active on social media, which is awesome, which is, I think, is like a part of growing on social today. Everyone's like, it's consistency, and it's like, whether it's you or like Carl Shakur, that everyone's like, I'm going to post every day, or I'm going to up, like, I know Reels would do well, or posting on stories. How cognizant are you of like, I need to be, if I'm on a trip, it's like, I should be uploading a bunch of stories today, or I should like, try to post every single day. Are you thinking about that, or?
I definitely used to think about it more. I set a rule for myself back in like 2016 probably, that I wanted to try and post every single day and see what happens. And I think that's the reason I've gotten to where I am now. Just because by posting every day, it meant I had to shoot way more, which meant I was practicing way more. So I got a lot better at photography a lot faster. And then I also grew on social media a lot faster. And so that was really helpful in that sense. But now I've definitely slowed down a bit, and I don't really think about it quite as much. I think that's because I'm more like comfortable where I am in my career. I think I'm not like actively trying to grow as fast as possible on social media, but at the same time, I do really enjoy that part of social media, like sharing my work. I don't want to just like have it sitting on the shelf, because like I take so many photos that aren't for companies or anything. Actually, almost all my photos on my Instagram aren't for sponsored content, and so those would never see the world or no one would ever see those photos if I'm never posting them. So I think a lot of it is for myself posting, because it's fun to share my work like that. But I've definitely slowed down a little bit, but I'm still posting like 4 times a week, probably 4 or 5.
Still great. Yeah,
it's tough with Reels, because I'm I'm more of a perfectionist with video than I am with photo. And so it just takes more time to edit video. So I just so much work to post Reels every day.
Yeah. I think people don't really realize how much, because it looks glorious, you're in a beautiful place, all of this stuff, but it's like, it's a grind.
That's the part I want an editor for, is just Reels, because it would be so nice to be able to just have daily Reels going.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also don't want to be filming Reels all the time. I actually just want to be taking photos.
I know.
And like shooting vertical video just,
doesn't do it for me.
No, it's horrible.
Yeah, petition to make videos horizontal again.
Yeah, God.
Or just have that button on Instagram where they had IGTV for like, it felt like a month, where it's just like you could press it and it would go full screen like YouTube. It's like, it's not that difficult.
I saw this video of some guy was making fun of vertical videos, and it was just like a regular scenes where people are watching their phones, but he had like VFX'd everyone's eyes to be like vertical.
Funny.
So everyone's just looking at like this.
I feel like it's like walking through life with like blinders on a horse, where it's just like you have no peripheral. It's like there's so much. I went and saw an IMAX movie last night, and I was just like, there's so the world's very wide.
Oh, the world's horizontal.
It's a nice reminder.
Yeah.
But whatever. It's like,
I've just been rotating videos, so
that's what, I feel like that's big in the filmmaking travel community. It's like, you know what? I'm not conforming. I'm going to turn it this way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Someone actually commented on this video that I had rotated. It was like a horizontal video that I rotated vertically. And they were like, how did you post the full video horizontally like that? I was like, one crazy trick you'll never guess.
Rotation.
Rotate it.
Hit that 90-degree button. You're cruising.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always going to be this kind of battle between like what the social platforms are wanting you to push versus like artistically what you're wanting to do. And like, hopefully it's like, you know, it's like that life imitates art versus like art imitates life type of thing. So I don't know, at least for me, like, how do you, like, I just, you know, without burning myself out, it's like everyone wants to be relevant. Everyone wants to have good engagement. It's like the older you get, hopefully the more comfortable you become. And like you're saying, you're like, oh, my main focus isn't necessarily growing or, but it's like when you're young, obviously you want, you know, having some validity and popularity feels good. Also like making money is like, feels like a necessity because you're like, I want to be able to, you know, survive and thrive and all that stuff. So it's like, yeah, I guess as you get older, what is your mental mindset for like, okay, I'm a creator first and foremost, which means being creative. So it's like, how do I allow myself to, you know, have that juggling act between like business and creativity and all of that?
I think the biggest thing for me over the last couple of years, or actually over the last probably just 2 years, has been really just noticing where my main source of income is coming from. And that's usually commercial projects off social media, and then focusing on that first and foremost, and then having social media to supplement that. So my Instagram is just my portfolio basically, which at first wasn't great because it meant I wasn't getting very many brand deals when I was just starting out. And that kind of made it so, like all my friends were making in the same industry were making more money than I was, and they had fewer followers than I did. And I just didn't, I was like, that sucks. But I was just gonna, like, I hated that feeling of just selling my soul for like sponsored posts. So I just kept posting my own photos, and that eventually made it so I had a big enough following where I could just do what I wanted. And that was my portfolio. And then companies were hiring me to just do exactly what I was doing already. And I think that's paid off like crazy in the long term. But in the short term, when I was just starting out, it didn't really seem as obvious when it was happening. I kind of forget your question. It was,
no, it's just like,
ramble.
Kind of that balance between business and creativity. But yeah, it's like at least for me, it's like mentally, it's like, I'm going to try to make what I like to make, and then if brands can fit into it, then that's the dream, you know, like you were saying, like you're posting your portfolio and it just so happens that all of a sudden brands are like, well, we love this technique or the way you shoot it, so like can you do it in that type of style, or can you integrate us or whatever. It's
kind of funny though, because it's like my portfolio is like nature, wildlife, photography, and then they'll see that and then hire me for like a canned cocktail company.
They're like, can you put the can in that nature?
Like, but it's like a lifestyle shoot or something. Like, how did that happen?
I think it's a feeling, right? It's like, I think we're all eliciting a feeling, and it's like, at least when I look at your pictures and stuff, it's like, you know, it's that, like you're saying, it feels dreamy in the sense of like growing up in Vancouver and like magical woods and all that stuff. But it's also, it's like, it's showcasing the beauty of nature. So it's like, it feels like it could apply to a lot of different stuff, whether it's people living in that type of environment or like products living in that type of environment. So
yeah, definitely. I think one of my main rules actually for editing is edit how it felt in real life, not necessarily how it looked. And that's mostly because you just get a raw file and it's just this dull version of how beautiful it was in person. Because I always find like a sunset always looks better to your eyes versus your camera.
Yeah.
And so just trying to bring that edit back to how it felt in the moment is the key for just kind of bringing out that magic in the raw file.
Yeah. Also, it's like, I find you don't shy away from colors, which is really nice in the age of like blue and orange being the only colors.
Everyone like desaturates greens.
Desaturating the greens. It's like, it's nice. It's like life is very colorful, so it's nice to like not be scared of the vibrance.
Yeah. I think it used to be a little too colorful with my photos, and now I've found a nice spot where it's all about just finding a timeless editing style. So I can look back, like I kind of figured out my editing style probably 3 years ago, and any photos from actually even 4 years ago, any photos from 4 years ago to now, I could post on my feed and it wouldn't feel weird. Like it still looks the same. Like I could have taken it yesterday, but anything before that was just like the worst.
Yeah.
Like way too saturated. I just was going crazy on Photoshop and it was just looked terrible. But I think
Yeah, you live and learn.
but I wasn't like trying to do digital art or anything. It was like I was trying to do good landscape photos and I just not the move for that.
No, I mean, well, you definitely dialed in your look, which is great.
Yeah, it speeds up everything when you have your style figured out, and then you can just know exactly how to edit a photo because you're not figuring out what's going to look good on it, because you just know like, oh, I'm just going to have the exact same base preset on it as every other photo, and then I'll just tweak it from there, make it look not underexposed or something, and then from there it's just good to go.
Yeah, that's repetition like anything
Exactly.
else. Yeah. Other thing I was going to ask you too is like, obviously you started posting landscape stuff because you were in awe of like where you were living and you wanted to post and share that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I like trying to think from upcoming content creators' perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ever think to yourself, it's like, oh, I need to be more face forward? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know you do voiceovers in your projects and you like did an interview type of portion in like the DJI release video. I find now on like, especially with like travel filmmakers or whatever, it's like everyone's so face forward now, where it never really was like that, at least like 4 or 5 years ago. It was more like, you know, photographers, videographers capturing whatever, or like, do you think for upcoming creators that they're like, should their mindset be like, oh, in order for me to establish like my brand identity, I should be talking to the camera, or I should include myself more? And do you think about that for yourself? You're like, well, I see other people doing that, or is it, you know, I find it's like a weird self-reflection.
Yeah, I definitely do a bit of it. I think one of the best things I've done for my brand, which I haven't been super good at just because I'm a little bit lazy sometimes on social media, is bringing in personality into your brand. Like just having photos, like nice photos is one thing, and they resonate with people, but they'll resonate with people way more if you have this personality attached with it. That doesn't mean like posting necessarily reels of yourself every day or something, because there's a fine line between it all depends what you want to be, but there's this fine line between photographer and influencer, and I always want to try and stay on that photographer end of the spectrum. Obviously you can be both, but like on social media it's like, what are people going to perceive you as? So I feel like it's, I don't know, for me personally, I'd rather be a photographer or a director or filmmaker. And so that's kind of why I put my work first. And then on my stories and stuff, you'll see my face every once in a while. But then the personality side that I've tried to bring in was doing things that are a little less serious, like those skit videos that I've been filming over the last couple of years, and just filming these random things that are just fun with friends, and not just taking myself super seriously, because I find everyone takes themselves so seriously in the like landscape photographer niche. They're all like talking about the most beautiful experience they've ever had. It happens to be every single post is the most beautiful experience they've ever had. And so I think just breaking out of that, and like I shot a 2-minute spy film, and like with these like handy cam thing, and it was the dumbest thing ever, but it had a pretty good story for what it was, and it was so much fun to make, and it got more views than some like crazy travel video that I spent like 3 months making, and I made that one in 2 hours. So
it's usually
it's
when
like
you don't overthink something.
Yeah, you don't overthink it. And I think that was the first one like that I had done, like the first skit. And I think that started to get people more excited to like, when's the next one happening? Like all these, and get more invested in my work. And then I've made 3 since then. The biggest one actually was in Oman. I was there with Carl and a couple other friends, and we found this market that sells full suits of medieval armor. And we're like, okay, we have to do something with this. This is hilarious. So I flew home, and my friend Josiah and I were We were texting, and we're like, what if we make a medieval comedy film set in Oman with this full suit of armor? And so we went back a year later, convinced a bunch of friends to come with us. We'd written a whole script, and then we bought a full suit of medieval armor, went out into the desert and shot this comedy skit in the desert, this suit of armor. It was more just because it's a hilarious story to tell, and it wasn't that expensive at the end of the day. Like, I think total we spent $5,000 on the whole thing between 6 of us, and then the suit of armor was only like $700 or something. And
yeah,
so it looked a lot more expensive than it was because the production value was super high, but it was actually relatively affordable. But yeah, that kind of stuff just really brings that personality into your brand, and I think just gives it more life. But then, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the influencer side of thing either. It's just like however you want to present your work to the world.
Yeah. Which I feel like is the biggest struggle for most people starting out, is like, who do I want to be? So you're constantly like watching other people, and you're like, I know that's dope, like maybe should I try to be like them, or like but yeah, I guess everything with time and experience, right? It's like you figure out what feels true to you and what feels good, and it's like but I guess another portion of it is like, how important are like making these connections? It's like, luckily, you know, in like 2016, 17, when it was like the boom of this like travel influencer space or content creator space, it's like, I feel like a lot of people were wanting to like outreach to one another, or like we'd cross paths in like Bali or different countries, or like maybe brands would put together these like group trips or whatever. And I don't know if it was just maybe nostalgia for me. It's like, I felt like people were more open to this kind of like collaboration, for lack of a better term, or like wanting to like have this camaraderie and like, you know, like form these groups. And like a lot of them have like spanned like 5-6 years. And do you find now that it's like people are more so wanting to like do things like on their own, or it's less like open or
I think, I mean, for me personally, it's less about the social media side, more about I know who I travel well with and work well with, because I've done it so much that it's hard for me to branch out of that, because it's usually all jobs when I'm traveling. And if I'm not with a crew that I'm absolutely dialed with, it's so easy for a job to get completely derailed. And so like in 2019, 2018, I was traveling with everyone. I was just like, every job was with new people, and it was exhausting because on almost every trip there was some kind of drama and people would be getting in fights or lose something and just be super disorganized or whatever it was. And that was, by the end of 2019, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna only travel with like these 10 people and just see what happens. And well, then COVID happened, but it was such a good switch from traveling with a bunch of different people to 1 or 2 close friends. And then that kind of led to the production company that I have now, where I just have these like 5 people I can just call on, and we can go anywhere in the world, and I know exactly what they're going to be like traveling there. I know they're going to be dialed. We're going to have everything, like they're not going to sleep through sunrise or something or miss the shot. So that's been super helpful in terms of productivity, traveling, and like just making sure there's no like just ease of mind, not having any drama on trips. Because then every once in a while, like I'll open up a trip a bit more and invite more friends that I don't really know as well, and then sure enough, drama ensues. I don't know why I think it's because people are so much more vulnerable when they're traveling. And they're tired, they're not eating as well, they're not sleeping as well because they're in a foreign environment, or it's just they're out of their comfort zone, and then they get more on edge, and then
traveling can bring everything out the best or worst of people when you're out of your comfort zone.
I know.
You have no.
But that being said, like group trips where it's like a brand spot, like, well, I can't talk. Group trips where it's like a brand sponsored trip are a lot more fun because you don't have to think about anything. You're just sitting back and enjoying the ride. And that's a great place to be. with a big group of friends that you don't normally get to travel with.
Yeah.
And those are often the places you find people that you're really good at traveling with. So yeah, it's more of a productivity side for me, less than a social media side, or less of a not wanting to invite people because of social media or something. Yeah.
No, I feel you. I feel like you got to be mentally open to it, but then just be like conscious of like how it feels while it's happening.
Exactly.
Type of thing.
It's along with the like sleeping 8 hours, not drinking, that kind of thing, and then just having your group dialed for traveling is usually only me and Zach or me and Connor or something.
Yeah. Connor's great to travel with.
Yeah, Connor's so organized.
Yeah.
Chill and easy to work with. So it's like that kind of thing is what you need, because like we'll go for 5 hours without saying a single word to each other, and that's exactly what you need.
Yeah, because a lot of time there's so much downtime if you're driving. You know, there's a lot of driving, there's a lot of waking up super early, waiting in like hotel lobbies or whatever, and it's like, to me, again, I know someone, I can like thrive with someone if we're comfortable in silence together.
The key,
because people that need to like fill the silence or like don't feel comfortable in the silence, it's like a lot of the time it's like then you're taking away, it's like that's the recharge time. And it's like, okay, we all need this recharge time in order to be able to like, once we get there, to let our creative juices start flowing. And how, because like I think we're fortunate now that we're in the place where it's like we're saying, it's like, oh, when we do these trips, they're brand related trips. I feel like for a lot of people, it's like maybe they don't have brand stuff incoming, or they're just wanting to like make a name for themselves, or I guess start creating this path for themselves. If you were just going to go do a trip for yourself, which I feel like you still do a decent amount, how much pre-production do you try to do? Or even
in
for
terms
these
of planning the trip?
Or even for these like branded trips, obviously it's like when it's branded, you feel like you need to dial it in a bit more, and you're like, okay, I need to know, because I have like deliverables, I need to know like what my schedule is gonna be. Are you someone who's like, if it's a new place, you research the places to go, or you try to hit up people that like live there, and then are you like, hey, I need to do every sunrise, sunset, or how does that look for you in terms of like creating the content and like scheduling for like, you know?
I think it all depends on what I'm shooting. So if it's a job, like in Brazil, I was shooting a commercial for DJI, and we weren't able to shoot anything for ourselves because it was such a hands-on production. So like we were shooting every sunrise, every sunset, and we had to have calls with the brand every single day, and go over the shot list that they made like a loose shot list for us to try and capture. And so that was like, you go into that trip with that mindset, so you're not tempted to go shoot anything else. You're like, okay, this is what we're shooting. I'm not going to be trying to shoot my own photos on the side. I'm there to direct this commercial. So in that sense, it's almost kind of nice, because that temptation isn't really there. It's like you're just so focused on that project that like all the planning that goes into it, everything is just so well thought out ahead of time, so the temptation isn't there. Whereas on personal trips, I find the best form of pre-production is going into a trip with intention, because so many times I've had it where I'll go to a place and I'll think in my head like, oh, it'll be so fun to shoot a vlog and the cinematic video and all these photos, and I'll get there and only end up shooting photos and maybe a reel or something, and none of it gets done. And so having that intention going into it is like, okay, this trip I'm gonna film a vlog, and then you just kind of set, like that's kind of what you're gonna be focusing on for the whole trip, and then you can build your other plans around that. So maybe you don't need every sunrise for your vlog, or maybe certain places will work better for it than others. So you can kind of plan your trip around what your intention is going into that trip. And I find that just helped so much once I started like coming up with the intention for the trip before I got there. And then from there you start kind of building a plan around it.
Yeah.
But obviously also keeping plans relatively loose is key. So like almost every single place I go, I'm booking the hotel that night.
Yeah.
Like I'm just booking hotels as I go, because we don't know where we're going to stay. And it also doesn't really matter what your hotel is like unless it's some crazy fancy thing somewhere. But
you mostly want to be close to the destination.
Yeah, it's more about location.
Yeah.
It's good to look at hotel prices, because I've definitely had that where you show up somewhere and it's like, oh, the Grand Prix is this weekend that we didn't realize. And it's so expensive or something, or everything's sold out. So it's good to look, but just hold off on booking until you have a solid plan.
Yeah.
And kind of change it around.
Everything.
Yeah. And weather as well also makes a difference in your plan. So
yeah, I feel like I'm similar. It's like I like to have like a list of things I want to see when I'm there, but it's like in terms of like when I'm going to see them, it's very variable, because it's also, you don't know how you're going to feel that day too. It's like, but yeah, usually it's like a lot of discussions the night before. Be like, are we waking up at 4 to go?
Yeah, it's always the night before discussion.
This volcano. Yeah, we're going to do it. The weather looks decent.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess on that note, maybe let's talk gear, just because like it's such a trendy thing too. So it's like, I feel like the cool thing about gear now, it's like regardless of like, there's a lot of options, which is great. And there's like, I feel like you can't really go wrong in a lot of areas, because like some of the lesser expensive stuff, you can produce a great result. And similarly, I know we love gear. So how do you plan on what gear you're bringing per trip? And then also if you want to like label out
the hardest question,
because I know you have so much. But yeah, like what if you were to ramble off like some of your favorite stuff, or I guess more business production oriented stuff versus like travel?
Yeah. So my main kit that's basically always living in my camera bag is my Sony A1 2470 1635 70-200 and a 35 1.4. So just like solid.
You got the zooms covered.
Zooms, everything.
Is 35 your favorite prime?
I'd say so.
And is that for photo or video or both? Well,
my favorite prime is I have this 105 millimeter f1.4 Sigma lens, which is the most insane thing ever. But it's like 105 millimeter filter thread as well. So it's huge, really heavy, and so it's not very good for traveling.
And that you like for portraits?
Yeah, it's the most beautiful lens on the planet. But the 35 is just so good for like wandering around a market or something, and just having this small, tiny, lightweight lens that looks great in so many different situations. I also, so that's in my camera bag, that's what I have. I also have like a DJI Mavic 3 Pro. And so all that lives in my camera bag. And then I also travel with a rolly suitcase. And that has secondary gear. So I have like a 14 1.8 in there, because I don't really use a 14 that much, but sometimes it's good for night sky stuff or whatnot. So 14 1.8, 20 1.8, and I usually have an A7S III in there as well, because sometimes you need a backup camera. I'm gonna be swapping out that A7S III for another A1 soon, and then a 50 mil 1.4 I think as well in there, and then some audio equipment, because you never know when you have to record a voiceover for something, which I've learned the hard way too many times. And yeah, that's pretty much the main kit. It's quite a bit of stuff, because then you have batteries for all that. Like I have 5 batteries for my drone, and then I have like 12-15 batteries for my camera, and so and then all your ND filters as well, and polarizer. So it becomes a lot of stuff really quickly. And sometimes I even have like a Ronin S, just the small Ronin S Mini, I guess, the small gimbal. And it's all just like crammed in this little rolly suitcase in my backpack, which each weigh like probably 40 pounds each. And then I have to get on the plane with that as carry-on each time.
Security.
Yeah.
Anything bigger than a phone?
Yeah. Yeah, just last week in French Polynesia, it was like, okay, take out all electronics. Like, like all of it's electronics.
And recently you like, I mean, I don't know if it's recent, but you love diving also. So it's like then underwater housing. And
so this next trip I have lined up, I was supposed to only go to Nepal. And then just yesterday, I got a job in Dubai right before Nepal. So now I'm going to be flying from Dubai to Nepal. And then on the way home from Nepal, the stopover is in Japan, and I was just in Japan, but the reef in Okinawa, this is the nerdiest thing ever that I'm about to say. So the reef in Okinawa is the best reef I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I've dove all around the world, and this reef is like the most alive, vibrant, colorful thing. Clear water, so many fish. And I didn't have my camera when I was diving there last time, like a month ago. So I was like, it just drove me insane. I was like,
So now you're gonna.
So now I'm like, if I go back to Japan and I don't have my underwater housing, like I'm gonna be kicking myself for so long. And so I'm gonna extend my stopover in Japan for like a week, go to Okinawa, because it's only like an hour and a half long flight to get there. And I have some friends that live there, so I'll stay with them and go diving. But it means I have to carry my underwater housing through Dubai and Nepal. And Dubai is like for a fancy event. So it's like I needed a suit and like business formal stuff for Dubai. Then I need my winter Himalaya stuff for Nepal. And then I need my dive underwater stuff for Japan. So just the most annoying thing to pack for, but
that's an art of itself. I feel like making a YouTube channel just of the art of packing.
I know. Thank God for the DB big suitcase that they make.
Yeah, I find every trip, it's just like, I used to just want to bring everything, and now, you know, because you're also talking about clothing too, it's like now you have to be super strategic. And I've like kind of gotten rid of backpacks when I travel. It's like, I know if like you should probably have one, especially if you're gonna hike and stuff, but it's like my back's just been messed too many times from that. So it's like I try to bring a rolling bag, fit as much as I can, and then I'll bring like a backpack for like on the plane, which I'll put like my iPad, laptop and stuff in. And then if I do need to do a hike, I'll just be like super strategic, like one lens, camera body, and I'm holding like a Ronin. Just try to
that'd be nice.
Right. Well, it's fun. It's like, you know, like gear is the best.
Actually, well, so my back was killing me because all my camera bags were terrible. So I actually designed a camera bag with Moment, and
Day Chaser?
Yeah, and we put a hiking pack harness on the camera bag, so it's just so much more comfortable. And I honestly think that's saved my back in the last year, just having that harness on the
That's great.
on the Day Chaser.
Plug that bag, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Buy my camera bag.
Swipe up, use promo code EMMETT.
Daychaser on moment.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. But it's nice when you get to like make something that is like fills a void that you actually need.
It's like, exactly. That was my main reason for making the bag. Like, I don't care if I make any money from it. I just want my perfect camera bag.
Yeah.
And that's what we made. So that's been super helpful.
Yeah. If you, on that note, if there were any like ideal, like if you can imagine a dream, like camera or lens or like what is it that you would like wish to have?
Honestly, this lens actually exists. It's the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to 2.8. That sounds pretty unreal. Like,
they sent it to me and I got to make stuff for them. So shout out Tamron while we're plugging. Thank you for that.
Only problem is I'm sponsored by Sony, so I can't go get the Tamron.
I'll let you borrow it.
Yeah. Sony, make a 35.
It's perfect for photo. For the longest time, that's what I used for photo.
Yeah, I think I might secretly buy one.
Secretly do it, dude.
But at the same time, like, I have so many lenses and I don't really need another one.
I feel like in my head, like in an ideal world, if I could have like the A2, I'd wish for 8K 120, because like for video.
Yeah.
I mean, global shutter would be nice. I haven't even messed around with the new global shutter, so I don't even know what it actually does. But like if it stopped lights from flickering and I never have to worry about like the shutter speed for video and like flickering lights, that would be awesome. And then like, maybe a zoom lens that was like a 24 to like 70, but it was like f2 throughout.
Yeah.
Or just like,
I think Canon made something similar, 28 to 70, I think, f2.
Is it 2 throughout the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
It's big though. It's big and heavy.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I feel like everyone in their heads, like if I had a 16 to 150 f1.4.
I know, you can't just like, you can't do that.
with an internal zoom.
Yeah, if you keep physics in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you have to come up with it.
Yeah.
But the thing with the global shutter that is kind of interesting, I was talking to my friend he's an engineer that designs imaging sensors. He said with global shutter on a full frame, when it's that big, sometimes you get really bad dynamic range.
Okay.
So I'm very curious to see how it performs. Yeah. But if they can manage, and that's also why it's 24 megapixels, because with the bigger pixels on the full frame sensor, it has better dynamic range. So if they were to bring that up to 50 megapixels with a global shutter on a full frame sensor, it might not have super good dynamic range, but
got it.
We'll see. Sony's been cooking up some wizardry lately. So
I feel like them and DJI are really innovating, which is great.
Yeah,
we're both team.
DJI is kind of doing the product shotgun strategy where they're
kind of like Apple now, where it's just like
throwing products.
They could also they could put everything.
Keep it coming, DJI.
They could put everything in one product, but they'd rather be like, oh, why don't you get the, we got the 3, and then we got the 3S, and then we got the 3 Pro, and then we got the 3 Mini.
I mean, it's nice to have options.
Yeah, true.
But
you don't want to lose your sponsorship. No, but
honestly, though, the Mavic 3 Pro is like, it's the perfect sidekick to the Inspire 3. And you're not going to be shooting on the Inspire 3 every day. And
no, most people aren't.
Most people aren't.
Yeah.
And so it's such a high quality image from that drone. It's still expensive, but it's like you get everything in that you could possibly want except a rotating camera. But you're shooting 5.3K anyway, so
it's about
that's
verticals
fine.
We do about horizontal.
Yeah.
I guess last thing.
I got like 10 more minutes probably, or yeah.
We'll close with if you had like one piece of advice to give to an I'll rephrase that. If you had one piece of advice to give to an upcoming content creator, or someone who's just, follows your stuff, has been following your stuff for a while, is like, I love the quality, the professionalism, like the way he edits, like how he's able to do photo and video, how he's able to work with brands. It's like with all of that knowledge of you being you up to this point, it's like what advice would you give to them, and is there anything you would have done differently?
I think 2 things. The first thing is photography is not a competition, especially social media is not a competition either. And I find it's really easy, especially starting out, to get kind of bogged down in that and kind of treat it as a competition where like you're on a group shoot or something and then you have to be the first one to post it or something like that, where like that isn't really conducive to growth, and it actually benefits you more if you're working together and growing together. So like, I think it also kind of ties into this where I taught this in one of my workshops, which was grow with your peers, not your idols. And so like people that are DMing Sam Colder every day to go be his assistant or something or shoot with him, that's not going to benefit you at all. You might learn a couple things, but in terms of your long-term career, you're just going to be Sam Colder's assistant. You're not actually going to be on the same level as Sam Colder. Whereas I'm just using Sam as an example because
I feel like
he gets so many
generation
DMs.
is probably like has their new person.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
but if you grow with your peers, you're starting off at the same level. You're teaching each other as you're growing. And it's totally fine to go work for someone and gain that experience because it's super valuable. But at the end of the day, if you're growing with your peers and you're growing together, then you end up creating a way more solid foundation. Because then down the road, like the people that I was backpacking with in 2017, when we were just starting out travel photography, it's like Jordan Hammond. He's got, like, we both have the same amount of followers on Instagram. We're at a very similar place in our careers. And that's because we both had the dedication and the time to put into it. But we also started off teaching each other while we were traveling, and just like being so, like, it helped us be so disciplined together because you kind of see the other person doing it. It's like having a gym buddy, except with your career.
Yeah.
So that's a really helpful aspect, is just growing with your peers and just finding the people in the area where you live and just trying to build that community, because ultimately we all do this for, well, it's a fun job, but also community. Like the friends that I have from doing this job are like the best friends I could ever ask for. And that's because you focus on building everything with a really tight group of people, and everything will be so much more fun because you're not getting bogged down in this competition mindset.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is do what you love and eventually the money will come. And that's like helped me so much in terms of my career, because like just forgetting about the money side of things, because I could have gotten so bogged down in that, and it also stresses you out way more if you're stressed about money, which obviously if you have no money it's going to be stressful. But if you can just let go of the, like, I don't know, it's more just get in the backpacker's mindset where you're just eating like $1 ramen noodles for dinner or something, and like being okay with that. But I don't know how I'm trying to phrase this. It's like being okay with discomfort and maybe not having the best jobs coming in or something, but really focusing on your craft, and kind of knowing that if you practice and if you put in the work, eventually that money will show up in the form of the jobs that you actually want to be doing. So try not to sell your soul. Sometimes you can sell your soul if they're paying you enough, but I think just, yeah, don't worry about the money, or do what you love and eventually the money will come. So that was a big roundabout way of saying
No,
all
those are two
that,
good pieces
but-
of advice. I mean, it reminds me of like two quotes that I love. Like, one, comparison is the thief of joy, and I completely agree, especially in the like social media age. It's like, even for me, I just try to like consciously limit how often I'm doom scrolling, you know, because that, yeah. But yeah, there's plenty of success to go around, so you don't have to compete with everybody.
Yeah, there's so many jobs going around that I think people forget about, because it seems like if there's one big job that your friend just got, it feels like that's the only big job in the world. It's like,
Or a giant campaign happens and you see all these influencers.
yeah, you
that
see
do it. Like,
everyone
why didn't they want me to
get
do it?
invited? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What's meant for you will never miss you, and what misses you wasn't meant for you.
yeah, and I think it's really easy to kind of get caught up in that whole world. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And if you're thankful for what you have, you always receive more. So it's
Exactly.
like all the time when I'm just like, I need more. It's just like, I should be, you know what? I've always dreamt of living in LA and like having this amazing camera gear and like living this life. So it's like, you know what? I'm thankful. And then all of a sudden you'll get like a random text message and you're like, okay, well, I'm glad. Like because yeah.
but it's all about putting yourself in a place where you can get those jobs. So you still have to be doing the back end of social media and networking and shooting every day, all that kind of stuff, because that's how you really get those jobs. So you're like, you manifest it by putting in the hard work to get there.
Yeah,
So-
you have to create. I think there's a big difference between just like mentally being like, I'm ready for the success, and then also being like, okay, let me go out and do this because I love it, but just like constantly. Yeah.
I think just to touch on what I was just trying to say and completely messed up, because just the like being okay with not making a ton of money is, I don't mean like just be rich. I don't. That's not what I mean at all.
Yeah, this is how I make 20K a day by.
No, I mean just more. I guess, well, because you kind of always need to have a job. That's the hard part. You
Try
can't,
not to, yeah, I get it. Like, try not to focus on it. Like, do it, like, create,
like
create.
you gotta pay rent.
Yeah.
But create because you love creating, not because
I
you're
need to pay rent.
trying to make a reel to grow on social media or something. Like, I find people will be able to tell, like, they'll want to follow you more if you're creating what you absolutely love versus creating to try and satisfy this audience.
Yeah.
Which sometimes you have to do that every once in a while. But if you're showing your audience what you want to make, that's why they're following you. Like, they want to see what you love to create. They don't want to see what the algorithm loves.
Yeah.
So create what you love to create, and then those jobs that you want will eventually come, because those jobs will be hiring you to create what you love to create.
Yeah.
So,
And the audience will come from that.
and
too.
the audience will come
You'll have
from
an
that.
audience that loves you for you, as opposed to,
Yeah.
and
Pick something that you're gonna love for a long time. Like,
and it's sustainable.
like traveling in nature and wildlife photography. I don't see myself getting tired of that, because it's so beautiful and
yeah,
you have so many incredible experiences from that. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll end it on that positive note.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Make sure to stay tuned for the next one. This has been Creator Convo. I never know how to end it.